There are currently fewer than 100 spaces left in men's prisons in England and Wales, according to a BBC investigation.
Yesterday, the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, said the government had to check the precise number of prison places every day during the recent disorder in parts of the UK.
Well, as of last Friday, the total prison population in England and Wales was 88,234. That's the highest end-of-week total for at least 13 years.
That's more than 5,000 more inmates than the same period 5 years ago. To ease the issues around capacity, the government set out plans to reduce the time inmates must spend in jail before they are automatically released. They said this is expected to result in the release of 5,500 offenders in the next 2 months.
Let's talk now to Mark Fairhurst from the Prison Officers Association. Mark, morning to you. You were here, just last week, were you?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
When we were talking about Operation Early Dawn, that idea of releasing some prisons to make a bit of space. We're now down to 100 spaces. What's going on? Why is it so bad?
Yeah, well, less than 100 we were on Tuesday morning. That was because over the last 2 weeks, we've had over 730 new receptions into the adult closed male estate. That combined with the bank holiday where we weren't able to release anybody on Monday has resulted in this latest crisis. I would imagine by the end of the week it'll even out, and by Friday we'll be able to service the courts.
So if we're down to that very low number now, what does that mean in practical terms?
In practical terms, it means we have to consider options, and some of those options may be bringing back online spaces that we took offline several months ago, so opening wings. It may be bringing business as usual cells back online that have been refurbished, although we haven't got enough staff to deal with that at this moment in time. What it could mean is Operation Brinker, which is not being used for a while, where we basically hold prisoners in police cells for prolonged periods until we find a space available for them. So it'll be one in, one out. I can't see it getting to that. We've only got 2 weeks before the 10th of September and that first tranche of releases, but we have several options.
We spoke about this last week as well, about that issue of one in, one out. I mean, we're getting to the point now, aren't we, where it might need to be more than one out to let people in, to keep that capacity, because you talk about that reopening wings, facilities that have been taken out of use. They were taken out of use for a reason, weren't they?
Yeah, there's a lot of essential fire safety work that's been going on, and we closed a wing in a prison down south because we didn't have the staff to run it. We could use detached duty to reopen that wing. We've had a re-rolled prison in the southeast come back online. We could fill that to capacity. So I would imagine if we did that by the end of the week, we could create, as I sit here now, at least 400 additional spaces.
These are all sticking plaster solutions, aren't they? They're all quick fixes. This isn't a fundamental reset of what our prison system can deliver, given that it is in the state it's in.
No, and the frustration and the anger among staff is that this was both predictable and preventable, but people in positions of power didn't act. So instead of laying blame, we've got to deal with this crisis, which we're doing so at the moment. You know, we're dealing with really professional and dedicated public servants. We'll get through this. We've only got to get through it for the next 2 weeks. But we need a long-term strategy, and the POA will work with the government and our employer to create a long-term strategy so we don't end up in this position again.
You've been in this industry for a long time, 30 years.
Yeah.
How bad is this current situation?
It's the worst I've ever seen. We've never got this low. And of course, the pressure on my members is immense. It's not unusual for some reception staff to work until 2 and 3 in the morning, you know, accepting new receptions because prison vans are delivering from courts hundreds of miles away from where they've picked up. So it might be the case that you get convicted in the northeast, but because we're so short of space, the only spaces are in the southwest or the southeast.
We know that the prison system should be about a deterrent as well. And it strikes me that anyone looking at the state of our prisons right now, this is no deterrent, because even if you end up in prison, and given what we're saying about places, you're more likely to get some sort of other sentence rather than necessarily a custodial sentence. You'll probably be released after 40%, 50% of your sentence. That's not a deterrent, is it?
The deterrent is losing your liberty and not being able to mix with your family and your loved ones. What we've got to do is we've got to promote rehabilitation. At this moment in time, we can't do that. Rehabilitation is just a word. We've got to get this right. We've got to do things better, and we've got to have a long-term strategy.
Mark Fairhurst, thank you so much. Thank you.